Welcome back to another episode of Modified Rides Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. Today I have another Brandon on, someone that goes way back with me. We've shot some stuff together, set this man on fire at one point. So we have a pretty good history, but we're a couple states away from each other, don't see each other that much. But now, he's getting back into the automotive world. So we'll see what he's done and where he's going. So I want to introduce to you guys Brandon Perry. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, what's going on, man?
So you started out forever ago, I guess, in high school and got into custom vehicles back then, correct?
I was before. It was like '92, I think. I was about 12. I started building speaker boxes and stuff for local guys that up the road from me, and I just kind of fell into it from there.
But when you first got into cars, though, you were a lowrider guy, correct?
Yeah, I've always been a lowrider guy. Just a point in my life where I couldn't afford them. So, but yeah, I've always been into Impalas mainly. Bel Airs, stuff like that. I like lowriders a lot.
So what was your first custom vehicle you built then? Because I know you do all your stuff yourself, but for the listeners, Brandon's pretty much one of those ones that he'll tinker on it till he makes it right and then learn how to do the next step himself as well. So what was the first full vehicle you built?
First car I ever had was a 1975 Cutlass Supreme. I got it in '96. So I was 16. Within 4 months, had put hydraulics on it, 13s, and was just cruising. Met some older guys. Had some LeSabres and some Regals and stuff around here, and man, just got into the whole lowrider thing. It was really big here in the '90s. It was a lot different than it is today.
So you were in West Virginia then as well, right?
Yes, correct. I'm in West Virginia still.
I mean, but back then, so the lowrider scene was actually pretty decent there in West Virginia.
Yeah, it was decent, man. There was probably several of those guys are still into cars, and they're older than I am. They're in their 50s now, but I would say there were 10 or 11 at least that had hydraulics. There was a lot of hot rods, big cruises. We would cruise Friday night, Saturday night, Saturday day at a park, and then Saturday night and at a cruise uptown again, and then Sunday we'd go to another park. So it was all weekend. Every single weekend, hundreds and hundreds of cars.
Now, I've been to Brandonstown, and it's not that big of a town. If you hear stories of people cruising like that, you think somewhere, big city, Atlanta, Charlotte, LA, something like that. But, Brandon lives in small town West Virginia. So to hear that there was that much of a lowrider scene back in the '90s, that was something I didn't expect to hear.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. It's probably one of the best times of my life. As far as cruising and everything, I wish my boys would get to experience that now, but it's nothing like that here now at all. Cars are starting to come back. We're getting a lot of the Subarus, lowered Subarus, the stanced wheels, a lot of 350Zs and stuff. And some of my kids are getting into that. So I try not to be negative. It's not my thing, but obviously I'll help them do whatever, and I just like them being involved. So it's good to see them out.
But you got to think, though, our parents probably looked at us back then like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, that's dumb. Just like you're looking at them like it's dumb. But for those that know Brandon, he's probably vocal, and he probably tells them, you're stupid. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, I definitely tell them they're wasting their money. they get spend it on a lot more worthwhile cars. But, if that's what they're into. I mean, my parents, They thought I was nuts. They still think I am, I think. But my dad, he'd be like, son, I don't understand this. But he was the one that helped me grind down my calipers to fit 13s on the 75 Cutlass. And, my Toyota that I built first was a lowrider at first. A lot of people don't know that. Obviously, a lot of the guys that haven't been in this a long time don't understand that chump change was originally a purple metal flake lowrider. 13s, wide white walls, crushed velvet interior. All done.
That.
Yeah, it hopped, did standing 3 wheels. Like, it was a lowrider. So, and I loved it. Have Urals on it and everything. And showed it like that for a long time until the early 2000s. And then decided I was going to tear it apart and do something different. But, you know, my dad, he actually welded all the stuff for me on chump change because I was like 18 at that. I think I got that car, I got that truck in 98, so I was 18. And he had came down and helped me weld everything on. So they're not supportive. They just didn't understand it. My parents, you know, they weren't into cars at all, but they've been super supportive and
Yeah.
would help me do anything, you know. So I try to
Now,
be the same way with my kids.
you took off and joined the Navy for a little while. Did the transition from lowrider to mini trucker happen when you was in the Navy, or was it before you went in or got out, or what?
No, not at all. Man, I like everything custom, and I like to I like to build stuff, you know, like I do. I don't care if it's a speaker box or, you know, welding something, building full frames, mini trucks, hot rods. It doesn't matter. I build them all. I built, you know, the Subarus and the 350Zs and all that stuff. I've done all that stuff. So not for myself, but for other people, obviously. Like I don't turn it down. I've lifted trucks. I'm just not into that type of stuff. But I like anything that's, you know, custom. It's not stock, not
Yeah.
something you can go buy off the lot. You know, I like that. So, man, I went in the Navy in 2000. I got out in 2005, but when I went in the Navy, I had my Toyota and I took it. It had hydraulic steel, and I was showing it in Virginia. I lived in Virginia Beach. I was showing it then a lot, and I ended up tearing it down there. There was a big mini truck scene in Virginia Beach, and I had messed with mini trucks through high school. I actually body dropped my first truck in 90, it would have been 96, 97. In that time frame, probably took that long to do. As a buddy of
Was that
mine's
yours or somebody else's?
a buddy of mine's extended cab Mazda, and it was janky. It wasn't good, you know. I was
You
trying
wouldn't
to
let your
figure it
kids
out. You
ride
know, yeah, I mean, I was 16 years old trying to learn how to weld. Like I didn't have anybody teach me this stuff. I didn't go to, you know, a hot rod school. I wish I could have or would have, but you know, I learned welding and stuff. My dad taught me how to stick weld. He was a union pipe fitter, and he ran an apprenticeship program for the union. And he would take me, probably, man, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and have me just weld pipe together with a stick welder, and that's terrible if anybody does that. So, and it's still to his mind to this day, you know, this many years later, almost, you know, over 30 years later, he thinks that a MIG welder's cheating. You know, he doesn't understand a MIG welder. So when I discovered a MIG, you know, 16 or 17, I started trying to teach myself to weld. I didn't have anybody to teach me. There's not people doing this here. You know, it's not big. So there was a lot of cars that were getting done. We're 4 hours from Louisville. So obviously Louisville still has a huge lowrider scene. So a lot of cars were getting done in Louisville.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people getting done in, there's a couple shops in Huntington that were doing hydraulic installs. Some guys that I got some tips off of and stuff like that. Those shops are still open. They've obviously switched to, you know, lifting trucks and different stuff now that's popular. But you know, diesel trucks and the big wide wheels hanging out the side of the diesel trucks is real big here.
You need you.
But yeah,
You need one.
yeah, no, I'm good, man. I got a big diesel truck, but not like that. I got one to pull my cars with. That's about it.
So to move that progression there. So while you're still in the Navy, you tore your Toyota down to convert it over to the mini truck world, right?
Yeah, I started going to a lot of shows there, and there was several lowriders there. A buddy of mine that really I got into lowriders with here. He's older than I am, and man, we still talk every day. He he got into he had lived in Virginia before I went there, so I went to the Navy. I ended up moving to Virginia. Then he moves back here at that time. So, but he had introduced me to some guys down there that had some shops, and they were building a bunch of lowriders, a bunch of Impalas and everything. I still loved them. I just couldn't afford them. You know, I mean, they're expensive.
Yeah.
And I had a 64 before I went in the Navy. So I had 75 Cutlass with hydraulics. I had a 64 I was working on, and I had my Toyota with hydraulics. And I was 18 years old. And when I went to leave, my dad said, "You got to get rid of some of these cars." I was still paying a payment on the Toyota. So I got rid of the other two. Sold the Cutlass,
And
sold the Impala, and kept the Toyota.
For the younger crowd, when you have hydraulics back then, it's not what it is today. They rode like ass. They would beat you to death. Always leaking. Like it was not what it is now. But I see hydraulics almost making a comeback to some degree, even with air technology increasing
Yeah.
like it has.
Yeah, a lot of the companies now, these these valve manifolds are going for hydraulics, and obviously accumulators came around. We didn't have that stuff, and I'm sure it was around, but we didn't have it here in the '90s. We were just
Yeah.
figuring it out, man. We were just cutting holes, sticking the cylinders in, wiring it up, and it wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't it it wasn't top quality work, I promise you. But you're trying to feel your way through it, doing it
Yeah.
yourself, and just kind of hacking them together as you go, and it evolves into what it's evolved into today. So, but yeah, I took the Toyota. I ended up tearing it down probably my first son was born in '03, so it was probably '02, '03. I tore it down and I body dropped it, put it on air ride, cut all the hydraulic stuff off, sold all that stuff, put it on air ride, flat blacked it, and then I ended up moving back to West Virginia. Brought it back like that, showed it a little bit. It ended up in the under construction for Minitruckin in the back.
Who shot that?
Man, that truck has been shot by a lot of people. More by you, but a lot of people. The first person that shot the truck finished was
No, who shot it under construction?
Under construction, I think it was. No, I'll tell you, it wasn't. I'm wrong. It was Reader's Rides, where you send a picture in yourself. So I'd send a picture in. Yep, I'd send a picture in. They get a little description at the bottom or whatever, what you write. So the first time it was shot was at Pigeon Forge. John Jackson shot it, chicken, green, when it was just mint green. So that was, man, I don't remember years at all. It's terrible. I haven't looked at those things in over 10 years probably, and I don't remember the years. But I would say '07 or '08 maybe.
What did that one run in?
It ran a Minitruckin.
Okay.
So it ran. I was in acrophobia at that point. So I met up with some guys in Virginia, got in acrophobia. Really started doing a lot of shows. At that time, I only had one son, so it was easier. I have 5 kids now, so not so easy. And then, he's almost 21, so he doesn't even remember this stuff. He's really into cars, but he doesn't even remember all this stuff. He was so young, which is crazy. But
hell, I remember. When I think of him, I think of him being little like that. I don't. Yeah. It's hard to think either one of our kids being in their 20s now. To me, you hear their name, you're like, oh, that's that little kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Serena being a little tiny kid. Man, it's crazy.
She's still tiny.
Old. Yeah, we're getting old, man. He's not. He's big boy now. He's an adult.
So if that was, if you had that in Minitruckin, and then it probably wasn't long after that we linked up, right?
Yeah, it got shot again. Jeff King shot it. It was in acrophobia. He's up in Pennsylvania, I believe, still.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that name in a minute.
That. Oh man, yeah. So me and Jeff became buddies, and Jeff shot it for. I'm not going to remember the name of the magazine now. What was the one that it was
Tailgate.
all color? Yep, Tailgate. That's it.
Yeah,
so
Jeff shot for Tailgate.
Yep, we took it out in some farm, man, out in North Carolina somewhere. I was at the Freak Show, and he shot it there. And then I got it back, and some things I didn't like about it, so we ended up tearing it down and repainting it. Same color again. And then I met you at Heritage, right?
Yeah.
Meet you and John O'Neill at Heritage, and you shot it there. Again, all just green.
And that was that still has become one of those epic shoots. I think I was the first one to shoot up on the mountain like we did.
Yeah.
And block the road. I think that was, I think you were talking then about wanting to redo it, but that early morning overlooking the fog, like there was nothing like that at that time. That was a completely different location that we kind of found and used.
Yeah, and I don't think it ever ran like that, did it? Did it run in anything? Did it run in street truck? I think it ran in street truck.
Street trucks or sport trucks. I'd have to go back and dig, but
I think
you'd have all these hanging up.
I don't have them hanging up, but I've got them somewhere. I've moved a few times in my life. They're in a box somewhere. I need to get that stuff out, man.
I can't remember if I shot yours for street trucks or it might have. No, that was the same year. That was the year before that I shot Brubaker's Dragon on the cop there, right?
Yes. Yep. The year before that. Correct.
So it might have been sport truck it was in. Either way, it's either street trucks. I remember it running with that that photo shoot?
Yeah.
Because that's when me and
Yeah,
you kind
man.
of, first met and become friends pretty quick after
Yep.
that.
Yeah, that's when we first met. And then, man, I think it was, I drove it. I ended up, I don't like not driving my cars, and I was trailering it everywhere. I had a big dually at that time, if you remember, on
Yep,
22s,
OBS.
laid out, old body, yeah, they call them old body styles now, but hell, it was pretty new at that time to me, I mean, that's what, it was only 10 years old, man, we're talking, 20 years old, we're talking '09, so, now they call them old body styles, that drives me crazy, but, I had that dually on air ride that laid out, ended up painting it green too, and then I was hauling that truck around everywhere, and I ended up selling the trailer and selling the dually, and I was like, man, I'm just going to drive it. And I started driving it when it was green, just regular green. I drove it to Pebble Pusher
Yeah.
show. Um, I drove it to your show. Um, I had it everywhere, man. I can't remember. I think Pigeon Forge was pretty much gone at that point,
Did
which
you have
sucks. I started,
you had it at Scraping the Smokies with it just green?
yeah, with it just green, and then I brought it. I ended up tearing it. I drove it that whole year like that. Sold everything, and just started driving. I mean, I think I went to 11 or 12 shows that year, all up and down the East Coast, everywhere. And then I ended up tearing it down. I got it back and tore it down, and had met up with Mike Speck before that anyway, and he's pretty close to me. He's 2.5 hours away, and we had known each other. We have known each other for a long time before that. So we tossed around some ideas and came up with letting him just do whatever he wanted to do. I gave him a list of like skulls, and I think this was before all the skulls and clowns and all that, the airbrushing stuff was coming out. I was just trying to do something different. So
I think
I had let him.
what's his name? Jaron. His truck was the first one to come out with that, wasn't it? The Blue Ranger, or was yours before his?
I think his came out at the same time, or maybe right before. The very first one that ever came out, because we were already painting mine, was the blue one out of California, the chop top Tacoma, extended cab Tacoma.
Oh,
Had,
grommets.
yep, grommets. That
Yeah.
truck was awesome. So I was like, man, like, what do you do? Start over though? Like, it
So
was
the
all
back up
airbrush
a bit,
candy
though.
skulls.
During this time, the whole time you had that, you were doing paint and body or just body work. Like that was when you got out of the Navy, you
Yeah.
went straight into the
Uh,
automotive collision world, right?
So I went to school to learn how to paint. I started on body work at 12 years old. I started driving mold speaker boxes, trying to learn how to do fiberglass, and then I started fixing rust because we have a big rust problem up here in West Virginia. I know it's hard to believe, but we do. Everything
No.
rots out. I mean, two-year
Y'all
old
get
trucks now, they're
do you?
missing bedsides. Yeah, so it's wild. But I started doing body work, and I didn't really know what I was doing. But I got out of high school, and I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. So my parents said they'd send me to school to do body work. So I went to a school actually in the county I live in now, because we didn't have it at the high school I had. So I went to a tech school to learn paint and body. I went all day long. I worked all evening at Sears as a mechanic. I was a mechanic at Sears from 16 till I was 18.
That's what you
And
did the Navy too, wasn't it?
yeah, I was an aircraft mechanic. I was a hydraulic mechanic in the Navy. And I also, well, once they found out I knew how to paint, I got stuck doing corrosion control and painting airplanes a lot. So, and I couldn't get out of that fast enough because I don't know if you ever looked at I worked on F-14 fighter jets. I don't know if you've ever seen how big one is, but they're about the size of
Yeah.
kid cars. So they're tough to paint. So, but yeah, I went through body school and all that stuff, and I worked in a body shop. Went in the Navy, ended up getting stuck painting planes for a while, and then my original job I went to do was to be a military policeman. That was what I picked. And then, like most people in the military, they're like, yeah, no problem. You get to boot camp, they're like, yeah, you can't do that. Pick another job. So I went to what I knew and what was comfortable, and it was, aviation hydraulics. I figured it can't be that much different than cars. I've already been putting them on cars, and thought maybe I'd learn something different, And I knew I'd at least be working on airplanes and hopefully not stuck on a ship all the time. At that point, I'd pretty much figured out I might have made a mistake, but it's too late. um, so I did that. I did hydraulics on F-14s from 2000 to 2005. Man, I loved it. Best job I've ever had. I worked on the flight deck, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom. We were there 3 times. I loved it. I hated being deployed, but I loved my job. Like it was awesome. Still the best job I've ever had. And but But man, when my time came to get out, I got out, and I came back, and I didn't know my son. He was 2.5 because I was gone so much. It was a weird. You think of September 11th and '03 bombings when we started bombing Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff when everything kicked off. Like I was there during all of that, so I was deployed the whole entire time. Like we were gone a lot, 8-10 months at a time. You'd be back a few months, but
you joined before all that, though.
Yeah, I joined the significant event that happened when I joined. I had joined in 2000, August of 2000, and then I think October the coal bombing happened in Yemen, which we're obviously having issues in now again. So, but that happened, and then everything just kind of spiraled from there. It wasn't I don't know. It's been a good time to be in the military at all, man. I loved it. Respect them. I'm proud of what we did, but it was my time to get out. I had bigger plans. That was really, the military was really cutting into my time working on cars was a lot of my issue. A lot of family time, a lot of time cutting on my cars. Like I said, I didn't know my son. I was gone. I felt pretty guilty about it. So I got out with no plan at all. Came back, ended up getting a construction job, building apartments and houses. And I'd never done that. So I did some concrete. We remodeled McDonald's and all that. And man, I had to go back to a body shop. So I went back to make money, because there's not a lot of money to be made here. You got to be a teacher, a nurse, or, work on cars. It's pretty much the only way you're going to make money here. So I went back to the flat rate body man.
You was already in the car world when we met, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, when we met, I had my Toyota in Virginia, man. I'm going to tell on myself, but I had a lower Jetta on 18s with a big wing on the back, and a loud exhaust, goofy stuff like that, but fully done, painted. I had
Wait a minute. You've made fun of me for having stuff like that over the years.
I make fun of myself, so that's all right. I'm pretty good at it. But yeah, I went through that phase, but at the same time, I had a Lincoln Town car that had hydraulics and candy paint patterned and everything that I would take to the shows. I just drove that Jetta every day, and it just wasn't my thing, It just wasn't. But I had it. I had my truck. I had that Jetta. I ended up selling the Jetta, buying a full size, and lowered it. Man, I've never left anything that I own alone is the problem, ever. So every single car I've ever had, I've done something to, whether it's put wheels on it, lower it, or whatever. I don't know. The newest car I've ever owned, I still own now. I've had it for 11 years, the '09 Cadillac CTS, and that's about to fall apart, but that's the newest car I've ever owned. I've got a '09, a '99, and a '59 right now, so I don't have anything newer than that. I've never had a new car. So I've just kind of bought stuff and built them the way I want,
Yeah.
But
so now with back to where you met up with Spec and he was painting the truck. So how did it come about that you went from having the truck, the one color, showing it, driving it? What made you say this needs to be redone? Let's go all out with it. Well, at the time it was already body dropped and everything as well, right?
Yeah, it was done. I mean, it was body dropped. Has the same wheels that are on it today, as far as I know. The last time I saw it a few months ago online, it still has the same wheels on it that I bought in Virginia in 2002. The same 18s. It was body dropped. All the air ride was done. 4-linked, all that stuff, man. Trim cross members to lay it out because they thought you had to Z them at the time, and I didn't know how to do that. So I figured out how to trim down all the cross members, raise the gas tank, and all that. But I never think they're good enough. Like I'm real particular, especially on myself. So I decided that I needed to go a little further, and I'm not artistic in that matter. Like I can't draw, so I knew I couldn't airbrush, and I wanted to do it candy because not many mini trucks were candy at the time. There wasn't a lot of candy. It was a lowrider thing, and the tweed interior that was in it was kind of going out, so I decided to go leather and redo everything, fiberglass, everything, like build my own interior, which I did, and then have Spec paint all the skulls on it, but leave some of the he just did the graphics. I wanted some of the original color on there so people know it was the same truck, So
now, there wasn't anything wrong with it when you tore it down to do it. You just said, let's do something different. Like you hadn't, it wasn't like beat up from driving and none of that stuff. It was still clean,
it was
right?
perfect. Yeah, it was still clean, man. Real nice. Ended up the frame was silver then, and then the everything was painted to match the outside, all the suspension, everything. So I tore it all down, and after or before he painted it, I blacked the frame out and everything. Real nice black paint, smoothed everything out, molded it, and painted it. Repainted suspension and all that stuff, and then sent it to him. And he had it maybe 6 months or so. And I'd go up there a couple times and take him more parts and others. Like I had fitted interior, I built the dash, I built the pieces or the console ran from the dash into a piece in the back that went around the seats. Sort of like, I guess, like Corvettes have now, just that type of thing, like your seat sets in it, and I'd fiberglassed all that.
Waterfall deal.
Yeah, I finished all that up, and I would take it up to him, and he would fit it, and mark his graphics out on it where he was going to put them, and start his airbrushing, and then I'd go up there and get pieces of it, bring it back, get it cleared. I had all the interior and everything cleared here by the guy, Jimmy Cross. He still paints and clears for me now. I don't even paint anymore because he's way better than I ever was. So,
but you'd painted the truck the first time when it was just one
yeah.
color there, right?
Yep, the first 2 times I painted in a 2-car garage in my house, just hung some plastic up, wet it down on the floor, and painted it. My cousin that obviously a lot of people know, they call him Little Brandon because he's younger than me, I guess. Not much littler. We're pretty much the same size, but he's a fantastic buffer.
There would be 3 of us Brandons anywhere we went. So.
Yep. Everybody just started calling him Little Brandon because there's too many of us, So
yeah.
He buffed it up for me, man, and it looked great. It was a good looking truck. I had no issues with it. It wasn't torn up. It wasn't, and I drug that truck to death too, man. I mean, I drug that truck down the interstate everywhere. I drove it all the time. Drove it every single weekend. Drove it to shows here. Drove it out of town. Like it really held up really, really well.
Now, those that don't know the truck, so those that don't know the truck, the graphics are down the side of it. Spec had just taped up the paint that was on it, so that wasn't touched, and then just started airbrushing. So I don't remember, did you give him like a list of what you needed and he started filling in holes after those were on? Because I know you had some very specific skulls on it.
Yeah, I gave him probably, I think it was like 50 to 70 skulls that I want to have. Ones for my kids, had ones for my buddies, guys I've met through Minitruckin, guys that have, and that's the crazy thing, like just guys that have become extremely good friends. I know that you do, but I don't have any contact with anybody I went to high school with. Nobody was into this stuff. And
you got one guy.
This is, one guy you still talk to. I have 0. Like I had one buddy that was kind of into cars, but fell out of it, man. And it's just something that I've never been able to shake the want and desire to work on cars. Like I feel like I will probably die doing this, like Bill Hines and all those guys. Not nearly as good, but just still tinkering with something, Like I just can't shake it. And you had said earlier, like I kind of came back in. I never went anywhere. I was quiet for years. I got burned out on the show scene, and traveling all the time. And I just had a lot of little kids, a lot of life things. And I had a career change that really dictates the amount of stuff that I get to do. I went from couple of different body shops and then changed careers to an actual, a career. Nothing wrong with body work. I love it. I do it every day. I still work on cars here. There's 1, 2, 3 of them here right now that are 4 of them here that are other people's right now. So I still do it every single day. I love it. But I was burnt out on building cars, working on cars every day, fixing soccer moms' vans and painting them, and then coming home and working till 3 or 4 in the morning on customer stuff or my own stuff. And it was starting to make me hate cars. I knew I had to make a change. So I did.
Before we get into too much of that whole life change with you, I guess we'll go through that progression. So with chump change, your Toyota was chump change before Spec painted it, correct? It was always chump change, right?
Yep, that's what I named it. I don't even know why. That was like a 2002, 3-ish thing. Yeah, I ended up I did the tweed interior, had the raised flames on the dash and everything that was, probably almost out of style at that point. But I liked it, and I always did my own thing. So I had chump change embroidered in the seat in the back, and then I had put some like fake $100 bills on the dash with some trim around it and all that. So it just became known as that.
And those that know Brandon from back in the day, he had a 2-car, not like a detached 2-car garage at his house that everything that he had his hands on was in this little 2-car garage. So people thinking that you need a 100,000 square foot air conditioned shop and all this, the stuff that Brandon would turn out of that little 2-car garage, looking back, would just blow your mind.
I appreciate that. I tried, I built some stuff for some, decently influential people that are still in the mini truck scene, air ride scene, and all that. Like I was getting my phone. I couldn't keep up. I ended up deleting my Facebook for years, if you remember that, because I could not
Yep.
keep up with the amount of people bothering me. Just not bothering me, but I mean, I was humbled by it. It was amazing, but I literally was going to school. I was going to college at the time, working at a body shop and working till 3 or 4 in the morning. I had a couple of guys helping me, and you know, like we weren't getting rich at all. I was making enough to go on a vacation a year, or you know what I mean, buy parts for my truck. I was trading a lot of work. I still do that now. I still trade a lot of work right now. But
Now, now back to the skulls on the truck though. When you picked out what was there, like I was fortunate enough. For those that know the truck, I have my own skull on there. It's a guy holding a camera, and in the lens, it says Burrell Images. I still to this day will have people send me photos of that. Be like, "Do you know you was on this truck?" And it's like, "Yeah, I remember when that was painted." And old Ricky Doors, I know he's got one on
yep,
there.
yeah,
So
Ricky's
he's
got
kind
one
of
on there.
not really disappeared, but you don't hear much from him anymore either. He's kind of, but
Yeah,
at the time, Ricky Doors is what we all called
it,
him.
those guys were big, man. They were big influences on my life. Ricky was hooking me up with parts. You were taking pictures for me. I had my kids on there, my mom and dad, just lots of different things, man. Heritage was on there because I love that show, and Lee was a good friend of mine.
See, we can say heritage on this podcast. Lee won't. He
Yeah,
always calls it the H word on his, but we can say heritage
I,
on my podcast.
I'd still call it what it is. It wouldn't matter. So, but yeah, all those guys that, like I said, have become lifelong friends, and other guys too that I hadn't even met yet, but I did meet through that, just some silly truck.
Yeah, yeah,
And and I became known as, as you're known by your trucks more than anything.
yep.
Um, I didn't know anybody in West Virginia that had mini trucks. Like when I left here, and when I came back, there was a few, and most of them had hydraulics. And then, man, it blew up here. If you remember, we did a cruise. I don't know if you were there or not. We did a cruise. We had guys from Maryland, Ohio, Kentucky that came down and met in
For heritage.
Virginia, actually. Yeah, met for Heritage, and we did a cruise. And I'm telling you, it was on. Well, Mike Alexander came. He came in because I was actually building his truck at that time, and Brian came from Grinder, and they shot it
Yeah.
the whole way down. And I mean, it was 55 trucks going. It was awesome. It stopped in Pikeville on the way, and continued into Heritage, and it was a great time. Like the scene really blew up.
Now, when you
It,
were redoing Chump Change, though, the other Toyota, I cannot for life of me remember the guy's name you built it for.
the
Uh,
gold color one,
yeah.
Mike Angel. He's a local guy. He's still around here. I still talk to him.
Now, when you
Mike
built his,
Angel. I built that truck.
you built it while Chump Change was getting painted, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I knocked it
I
out pretty
know.
quick.
Only reason I know it was before is uh, because the feature come out before, and those doing watching the video aspect, I guess it's here behind me. You've got the gold one, and then the very next cover's Chump Change hanging. That was the order of my. We
Yeah,
actually shot that at Heritage
yep.
at night in the dark, and then I guess it was a few
December.
months later. Yours was done.
Yeah, it was December is when we shot mine because we shot it at the body shop I worked at the time. You actually came to the house
Yep.
and stayed with me, and we shot it there.
So that was
But yeah,
to this date was probably one of my favorite photo shoots. I drove, what is it, 5 hours or so to West
yeah,
Virginia. I actually had called in sick to work. I'm not at Pepsi anymore, so I can say that. I called in sick so I could go to West Virginia. So I couldn't post nothing what I was doing. Like I hated that I couldn't, but I knew we wanted this thing on the cover, worked with Mike Alexander back and forth. And was like, man, it's like, this thing needs cover. Let's do something crazy. Let's do what we need to do. Well, I know you had just literally finished putting it together when I got there, and it was
Yeah.
still in the shop that night. So
Yep.
I actually posted the other day, which by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks before, so I'll have to repost it. There's a photo of Chump Change laying in a paint booth with Brandon spraying fire out of a paint gun. So none of us knew what would burn, how quick it would burn. So we were just mixing shit to put in the paint gun. And I want to say little Brandon was there with the hose just in case somebody caught fire.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a
Um,
fire extinguisher and everything. So, and what people don't understand, like that was, we had to wait till the shop was closed. I worked that day.
yeah.
And my boss that owns that body shop, great guy. Anybody that's into cars may know who he is. His name's Greg Chandler. He races on Street Outlaws on TV right now. I mean, he's a good dude. He's into cars, and he was generous enough to say, yeah, no problem. Take my $5 million body shop and set it on fire. You know, he didn't care. He let us move cars out and everything. He's like, I'm going home. You guys have fun. Lock up when you leave. So super
So
cool, man. Super supportive people, you know.
that shoot with the fire has been duplicated a few times since then, but literally, I
Oh, yeah.
think we had like 4 or 5 different combinations of what would burn, how long it would burn, would it spray enough, would the flame
Yep.
come out enough? Like there was a lot of testing. I don't even remember what we wound up using to get that
Oh, I
the
did.
good fire.
It was
What
grease
was
and
it?
wax remover. So anybody wants to do it, it's grease and wax remover. It works real well. Spinner was too hot. It was trying to suck it back in the gun, set my hand on fire. So yeah, it was a good time. I ended up burning all the hair off my arms.
And what you can't see from photos. I wish that we did video back then. So Brandon's holding spray, trying to stand there with the tough guy, the look, he's got the paint mask on. And those that know Brandon, he's tatted up, full sleeves. So you don't see under the mask, but while that fire is going, Brandon's cussing and screaming, "You're burning my arm. Like, hurry, take the picture." I'm like going as fast as I can. He shuts the gun off, flame goes out, no hair on his arm from the gun. It's stories like that to me that will always make that probably one of my favorite photo shoots, because we
Yeah.
tried something different and it worked. We didn't know if it was going to work or not.
You know what's crazy is the pictures of that thing outside. And what kind of sucks? Nothing on Minitruckin. I love that magazine. I'm glad it's coming back. Obviously, I still love Minitrucks. The crappy thing about that is they were running out of money. I would assume it's right before they shut down, and their print
Yeah.
quality went down real bad. So you can't tell. Like you would have been able to tell if your pictures were printed, better than a few months before. But it was snowing when we took those pictures. I was
Yeah.
continuously wiping snow so you could take a picture. Like I would wipe, you would take the shot, and you're like, nope, got it. And I'd wipe again, you take a shot. It was awful. Like it was freezing cold. I think it was right. It was my birthday actually, December 3rd. It was on my birthdays when we did it.
But
So
the truck had
pretty
just
wild,
been
man.
done, so we couldn't wait. There was a deadline with the magazine, like we had to do
Yep.
it. And
Yep.
I remember, like, so
It had to be
the
done that
fire
weekend.
shoot. Yeah, the fire shoot was done the night I got there, that night, and then the next day we did some shots in the studio, in the paint booth, with the whited out the windows so we could shoot the interior. It
Yeah.
looked like it was in a studio, but it was literally in the body shop. But then we
Yeah, it
pulled
was.
out.
What do we used white paper that you tape up a car
Yep.
with the paint. Just masking paper is what we used, and everybody thought it was in a white studio, and it
Yep.
wasn't. If you notice, you
It was.
can't.
There
If
was.
anybody notices when they look, you can't see the pillars and stuff. Everything's
I need
gone
to
because
dig out some
can't see
old
through it.
photos. I'd love to dig
Yeah.
that CD out and pull out, because there's a lot of stuff that I know didn't run that you would see that. But then, like that, once we got done with the interior, we pulled it outside and literally
Hmm.
had just started snowing. So if you could zoom into the magazine cover, there's snow all over the truck, and it would be like,
Yeah.
all right, I want to picture this skull, wipe it, get it good, let me get the camera focused, wipe it down, count to 3, pull
Yep.
the microfiber off, snap the picture, and there was already snow on it. Like it
Yep.
wasn't snowing, but it was snowing enough just to piss you off.
It wasn't good at all, and obviously the sun didn't cooperate that day either, like you like. So
Oh yeah.
I was pretty familiar with what you guys want at that point, and I knew it was a bad day to shoot it. But we didn't have a choice. There was nothing we could do. So a lot of the shots were inside. Like the interior
Yeah.
shots were all inside. The fire shot, obviously, I think set that thing apart. People remember that. I've seen people will send me pictures or tag me and like people's houses they've been to, and it's hanging on their wall. It's so cool, you know. It had the poster, they've got it hanging up still or on their in their garage or whatever. I mean, that's forever ago to me, you know.
That's one thing that
So
I still wish we did at Street Trucks was did the posters like that. I
the
know it was
posters,
different because it was a staple bound magazine. You could
yeah,
remove the staple, pull the center out, but people still have those posters hanging on their walls. I mean,
yep,
it's one of those memory things. But after that ran, I remember Shingo ran it in, I don't know if it was Truck
yeah,
Trends or
it
whatever.
was.
I
It was
think it was still Truck
truck
Trends and
trends.
hadn't changed the
Yeah,
custom trucks.
yeah, he
But they
ran
ran the same
the
photos.
yep, he did.
Now,
He ran
Mini
in
Truck
truck trends.
ran the one with you with the paint mask on, and Shingo ran the picture with you holding it in your hand. I remember there was a little
Yeah,
variance in that, but it was the same photo set.
same set. Yeah, you're right. He did. He got your pictures. You sent him your pictures, and he took them. And you know what's crazy about that? We're talking about people that you meet through you know just silly cars. You just got to say
Yep.
what it is. You know, it's cars. They're silly. We spend a tremendous amount of money on them, building them. I love them. I mean, they literally, as corny as it is, they saved my life from not doing dumb stuff. Because I have an addictive personality, obviously. So I focused it on vehicles. I have my whole entire life. The same as you. You know, I mean, we're anybody that's listening to this or watching this is probably has some sort of addictive personality. So it just
Yep.
depends on what you focus it on. You know, mine was cars, and it always will be cars. It's just it. Like I can't ever see me do anything else. But
I can't
Shingo,
either.
yeah, I a guy from Tennessee. I think his name was DJ Roberts. Is that correct? You know DJ, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Johnson
So
City. Yeah.
yep, DJ got a hold of me and said, "Hey man, Shingo's in." I think he was going to. Was it your show that he was
Laid out.
going to? Okay,
Laid
laid
out.
out. Yeah, laid out the park. And I was getting ready to take my truck, but he wanted to do a shop tour. And I told DJ, I said, "Man, how far away are you?" And he tells me, and I kind of laughed. I said, "Buddy, I don't have a shop. I got a 2-car garage outside of my house, and there's like 7 mini trucks here in different stages of, you know, destruction right now. Mine's
Had you
finished.
already created the drag shop name at that point?
I created a drag shop name in Virginia. When I first body dropped the
Okay.
truck, I started taking it around places, and it's weird, man. Nobody knows your name. You know what I mean? You're Burrell Images. I'm Chump Change. Whatever. They know you by your car. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. It's how people remember you. So I've just tried to create not necessarily a brand like yours is, because I don't really have a shop, but I was building a lot of trucks in Virginia too, and I just started making stickers and sticking them on there, man. And I was making them. Where I did paint work in the Navy, we had a plotter that just plotted out stickers that you'd put on the side of aircraft, you know, the American flag and all that stuff that
Yeah.
they put on them. So I was making my own stickers then and just sticking them on people's trucks just because I would have 4 or 5 different mini trucks that I had built there. At these, they had a lot of cruise-ins and shows every single weekend. I mean, it's, you know, it's warm, really warm all summer. So I just kind of created a name, more of a brand type thing so people would know where they came from, you know.
So I
And
guess
I
because of
figured,
the drag shop name, Shingo thought you had an actual shop.
yeah, he thought I had a shop. So I explained to him and I sent some pictures and DJ was like, "Man, we're good with it. He wants to come." And Mike's truck was there at that time. Mike's Toyota.
Mike Alexander.
So Mike Alexander's, yeah, his Toyota that I was building for him was there. I had a local guy's, S10 that was 2-toned. I think Lee's truck was there at the time. Hadn't started on it yet. It was sitting on the trailer. I had the pink S10 that I was building at the time, and my truck was there. And I think there was one more. There's pictures of it. There's like 7 of them. I mean, it looks unbelievable. Like all these trucks, and that's in a residential neighborhood with neighbors right up
In a
beside
driveway in front of a
you.
detached garage. That's all it
In a
is.
driveway, man. Yeah, we were building outside. We were building 2 inside. Like we were working on them, and it was just me and a couple guys helping, a couple buddies helping me, you know. And we were just, and I don't even know what, there was no goal. Like it was just to build trucks, you know, like I just wanted to work on them. There was no, I mean, everybody wants to own a shop. I knew that was probably out of the realm for me because of the amount of kids that I had. It just wasn't the safe thing to do as far as, you know, insurance and all that stuff and just the headache.
You
And I
have
didn't want to, I
2
had
or 3
2
at this.
then. I had 2 at that point. Yeah, I had 2 sons. And they were playing sports and all that stuff. And man, I just, they come first. You know what I mean? They do. They always
Yeah.
have. They still do. They're the most important thing in
I'd
your life,
forgotten about
obviously.
I'd forgotten about the pink S10 until you brought that up, because I always
Yeah.
think of the Toyotas when I think of you. But the pink
Yep.
square body S10 shot for Minitruckin Construction Zone. It
Yep.
had what 3/4 inch plywood wheels on it that
Yeah,
were
man,
airbrushed, looked like they were wheels.
yeah, and that's became popular now. I keep seeing that pop up on like Instagram and stuff. Different guys have plywood wheels on them, and I just did it to I figured out wheel and tire size, and I couldn't afford wheels and tires at that point, so I cut them out of plywood. Had a buddy of mine airbrush them to look like 5-spoke wheels with tires on. We popped them on and took it to the show. No bed on it at that
I,
point or anything, man.
I remember we pushed it off the trailer with the wheels, watching the plywood just flex and bend. We was wondering if they were going to break, because it was just one layer. I think the guys now actually
Yeah,
do
yeah,
two
they're
or
doing
three layers,
multiples.
or they
Oh,
use
they're
those
making them. I mean,
gooey.
they're making them out of plastic and everything, man. I should have thought of that years ago and I made them out of wood. I'm not saying I was the first one, but it was the first one I had seen. I didn't ever saw anybody do that. So I
Oh yeah,
probably should have
we aired it out
patented that
on
into
the
the
plywood wheel.
plastic.
The Heritage there was a lot of stuff that we did at Heritage. I think with all your stuff, the Goldish Toyota was shot there. Yours was
Yeah,
shot there the first time by me. The pink truck was shot there.
mine was shot there
So,
again by you too on the mountain again. We
oh yeah,
redid that shoot with the skull. It just never ran.
that's the year that
Mini trucking went away, and then you were trying to get it to run in street trucks, and they never did run it for some reason.
well, that's the year that Brian and Brian Good and Mike Alexander were there, and I still use this story
Yes.
today. I actually brought it up to Brian, was telling somebody about me at LST, and I'm like, yeah, I was like,
I know
Brian's
where
the
this is
reason I
going.
traded my car. And he was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I spilled a Skittle under the seat. And he got mad. I'm like, no, y'all were doing e-brake slides in my
Oh
car,
yeah.
hanging out.
Yeah, they broke
Yeah,
off
because
your. You got real mad over them breaking off your phone cord too, inside the
oh
car,
yeah,
like in the
I would
ports.
never. If Brian Good or Mike Alexander say, hey, can I take your vehicle for a
No,
drive? Just tell them no. Tell them that
nah,
you want to keep that vehicle nice.
yeah. We
But
were
you
probably
were
all a little
already.
bit wilder back then.
Oh yeah.
Maybe,
Well,
maybe.
that was the year. So I guess you had Mike Alexander's truck. So how did it come about that you were going to build Mike Alexander a truck? And that was Blue Steel, wasn't it the name of it?
Yeah, blue steel. So it was the black, regular cab Tacoma. I had finished my truck. Mike reached out to me actually through email, which is weird. I didn't have Facebook and I didn't have Instagram then at all. Like I was overwhelmed with the amount of calls and emails and messages that people want me to build them frames, build them suspension, build them trucks, build this, build that. And man, like I couldn't make people understand that I was just a guy working at a body shop and I was doing this out of my garage and there was 5 or 6 trucks and I had a waiting list. Like it was huge. There was a lot of stuff there. And I was doing
Yep.
hot rods and street rods and I was painting cars and I was fixing people's cars and you know what I mean? Like I was doing a lot of work. So I did what was that range? I did a Ranger for a local guy. I had I-beams. You remember that one? I built the I-beam. I think you
Uh-huh.
shot it too. I built the I-beams for it, and it laid on 22s with cut rockers. Like that thing was nuts. Like just goofy stuff that I didn't know could be done. I was just trying to do it, and I'm doing it in a garage, you know, with a MIG welder and a grinder. Like I didn't have a plasma cutter. I didn't have fancy tools. I still don't at all. I still do things by hand, you know. People have plasma tables and all this crazy hydraulic benders and all this. I don't have that stuff, man. And I just tried to do things on a budget and do them the best that I could do them and as nice as I could do them. But Mike got a hold of me and was like, man, I've got a Toyota. I want to get a Toyota. I want a Tacoma. I want you to build it, or would you be interested? I mean, he was Mike Alexander. He worked at Minitruckin. Why wouldn't I, you know? So
Did you
I was
know
like,
him
yeah.
before then?
I did not know him. No, I didn't know him. I knew him, I guess through you. I had never met him. I'd never seen Mike. I did not know him at all. Just knew of him, you know.
Yeah.
I think I had,
Infamous Mike.
yeah, I mean, everybody knew Mike. He worked at a magazine. It is what it is, you know. So, they had obviously ran my truck when Mike was there, and they ran some other things that I had done while Mike was there. So I had known him like through you telling me like, yeah, I talked to Mike. Mike's going to run this. This is going to be on the
Yeah.
cover, whatever, you know. And I had those 2 back-to-back cover trucks, and man, like the business side of it took off, but I didn't have a business, is what nobody understands. Like it wasn't a real shop, and it still isn't, you know. So he reached out to me through email. I ended up calling him, and I was like, man, I know where a Tacoma is right now because Mike Speck had one. He had one that was orange with a black bed. It was beat all to death. It was bad shape. He was wanting to build it, but then he had got a Mazda, I believe, and changed his mind. And I had still, me and Speck were still close, so I reached out to Speck. Him and Mike worked it out as far as what he was going to get. And Mike had actually just left Minitruckin. In the middle of me building this, Mike leaves Minitruckin and goes to AccuAir, if you remember that. He was working at AccuAir. You remember that? It's a long time ago, right? So he goes to AccuAir. And Mike had sent me a camera because I didn't have a camera. You were laughing at me because I don't own a computer at my house at all. I mean, I know it's funny to you, but I have a cell phone and that's it. I don't. I was not into that stuff. So he sends me a camera and a camera memory cards, and he's like, I want you to shoot tech articles, do the best you can do. This is the settings you put it on, and I'm not a photographer, So we did. We shot a bunch of tech articles for it, and then we got into the problem of he left Minitruck, and we're like, oh, God, where's it going to run? What's going to happen? And he ended up getting in with street trucks, and it all the tech articles ran through street trucks. We did some paint tech, some body tech, some air ride, like how to set up a 4-link and stuff like that. Just basic in your garage tech articles, not big money shop.
I guess Mulligan was there then, or is that Travis?
Yeah, I think he was there, and then maybe Travis got there by the time the truck was shot. I can't remember. By the time the truck ran, I can't remember. But I built that truck in I ended up going to get the truck from Speck in Louisville and bringing it back. We tore it down. I 3/4 framed it. One of Mike's the guys, Joel and Gromit and those guys built his seats for him, and he sent me those. I ended up doing all the rest of the interior. We got some suede. I did the suede. We did some pods and stuff. Man, he just wanted a simple driver, and that was what I always wanted to be known for, was building drivers. Like, I didn't want my trucks on trailers,
I remember I drove up to your house and shot it like unfinished in pieces in front of your garage. The boxes of stereo stuff out, the bed sitting up on the end, the cab there.
Yeah, you did. I forgot about that.
And I got pictures of you standing on his. And what?
My half-painted gutter that you picked on me about.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I didn't finish painting my gutter, so you're making fun of me.
And we shot right in front of that building. I remember I got a picture of you standing on the roof or the hood or something of Mike's truck. Of course, it was primer at the time, no windows or nothing in it. You were cleaning something off the roof or out of the gutter or something, standing on the roof of his truck because we'd already laid his truck out and it was in the way.
Well, that was like you standing in the back of my Toyota during the snow shoot. I'm wiping the roof, and you're standing in the bed of the Toyota with socks on in the snow.
Because it was painted,
Yeah, we did some goofy stuff, seriously.
So that takes us to where his truck was half done, because I went up and shot that.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long after that I came back to shoot it done.
Yeah. You came to my house and stayed with me again. And we drove around everywhere in Charleston looking for somewhere to shoot. Found a couple cool cemeteries and stuff, but again, it's a black truck, so we knew it wasn't going to cover, more than likely. Doesn't happen often, so we knew that was going to be an issue, especially with having to switch to street trucks. We knew that probably wasn't going to happen, even with Mike's pull. And I think at that point he might have been working at street trucks then, or maybe he was just shooting for street trucks.
He was just friends with everybody there.
Yeah, and he was shooting for them the same like everybody else, like you and all the other guys. But we ended up driving around and finding a place by the river that had a bridge and stuff in the back, and we shot it there. I think we drove it. Didn't we drive it? Because there's pictures. You did the rolling shots driving through the town that I'm from, and then you had pictures of me putting gas in the gas filler, which was in where the stake pocket should be, and the motorcycle pop-up cap and all that stuff.
I remember we actually had to finish putting the interior in. Like, the door panels weren't in it.
Yeah.
You were wrapping the steering wheel an hour before I shot it.
Yep. It's always a last minute rush. It will be too now. Every day it's a last minute rush with me. There's just not enough time in the day to do it all, and obviously work a real job and take care of a family and all that stuff. So it's always a rush.
To me,
it's not a priority.
To me, it was cool that Mike was like, hey, Brandon's building this. I need you to go shoot it. And it's like,
Yeah.
for someone like Mike at the time, who at the time still did features, he still shot, for him to say he wanted me to shoot that, I mean, no pressure at all. Like, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
It's someone I've worked for a while. For his
Yeah, it's a
build, it's
black
like,
truck.
is he going to be happy with it or not?
So that was Mike's very first truck ever done that he ever had actually finished. Because he had a
And
million projects, obviously. Yeah, that was his that was what he told me. Hey, man, and it was humbling to me because I didn't know Mike, and this guy's from California. And he's this, big person in the industry, and I'm not. I never strived to be that at all. I just tried to. I just like hanging out and building stuff. I like being creative and just building what I could with my hands and meeting people and hanging out shows. But Mike, when he asked me, he said, "Man, you're building a lot of top-notch trucks that are landing on the cover, rightfully so, and I just want a driver." He said, "But yours are all drivers. Like, these guys are driving these trucks to these shows that are, full done cover trucks, and they're driving.
Yeah.
And man, and they're nowhere near, like, they're nice trucks, but they're nothing compared to what guys are building now. The stuff that's coming out now is unreal. I mean, it's hot rods in a mini truck style, I mean, it's unreal. We weren't doing that stuff then. We're doing plastic airline then, and they were nice, but they were not, they weren't what they are now, So it was humbling for me for him to, want me to do that. All the people in the world that could have built the truck for him. So, we struck a deal for what it was, and he provided all the parts, and I did the work, man. We finished that thing like 9 months. So you'd shot it half together, then you came and shot it together. And then Mike, crazy story, Mike and Brian show up with a trailer, and they pick up the truck, and it's like pouring the rain, nighttime, and they're taking it straight to SEMA. That's where they were going. And they were, I don't, from Las Vegas to here, I don't know how long of a drive that is. I'm sure it's well over.
It's 32
50
hours for me. So
yeah, I was assuming it was 50 hours from here, high 40s, I would assume. So
this was what, 3 days after I shot it? I think within a week after I shot it, they come to pick it up.
Yeah, they came pick it up. So they brought me a truck. Me and Mike, like I said, we struck a deal. He had a new body style at the time. It was the 05, the very first year of the new Frontiers. And he brings that to me, drops it off, puts his truck on the trailer, and they leave immediately. And they're going to Indiana. They're going north up to Indiana to meet up with some guys.
Mike Cotton
that had a shop. Yeah, Mike Cotton. So he's going up to meet up with them, and they're all going to roll to SEMA. Well, they get on their way out, and somebody's truck breaks down. So Mike unloads that Toyota. I didn't know whose it was.
Cotton's truck broke down.
Yeah, something happened to it to where it needed to go on the trailer until they got somewhere to fix it. So the next picture I get of that truck is the black Toyota. And, SEMA's in November, so the East Coast in November is terrible weather-wise, but it's completely filthy. It's about an inch off the ground, and he's rolling down the interstate at 85 miles an hour in that truck. He drove that thing all the way to Las Vegas from Indiana, which is
Oklahoma. I think they said Oklahoma City is when they swapped
Oklahoma.
Out.
Yeah, that's it.
So
Oklahoma.
That's still Oklahoma City's 14 for me, so it's 24, almost 20, like 18, 20 hours or so from there.
Yeah, so they drive that thing to see.
Don't know is that truck had literally been built for a week. I remember as soon as the photo shoot was done, it was at night. Brandon's like, "Well, the truck's done. Let's break it in." And he drags it across the parking lot for the first time. Said, "Yep, it drags. I did my job." And a week-old truck built in a 2-car garage in the middle of West Virginia is driving basically across the country on its own for SEMA. Like that was crazy for that time, for sure.
And it was scary for me, like your reputation's on the line there. It's like, this guy trusts you to do this. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, what do you mean you're driving? we had no bug working time out. The weather's terrible in West Virginia in November, October, November, December, January, February. This is March right now. So we had 60-degree weather Sunday, and it was snowing Monday. It was in the 30s Monday and snow. It's still cold today.
So the day that I shot it done is the only time that truck had any kind of road time at all on it before it made the trip to SEMA.
Yeah, we drove it up and shot it. We did some rolling shots with it. I put some gas in it, and went back to the house, and the weather was terrible. Like I said, when he picked it up, it was like freezing rain that night. It was disgusting. Like, I hated to pull it out of that garage. He came in, looked at it, and he may not want you to know because I know you're interviewing him soon, but he actually cried that night and hugged me. He had tears running out of his eyes. He'd never had a truck finished, and he's built some nice stuff. Those guys,
Yeah.
they're way far beyond what I'm capable of doing here, but it was cool, and he's became a lifelong friend out of that. Like we talk often. Um, he ended up, we'll get into that, but he ended up buying a car from me later and all this other stuff. But he dropped that Nissan off, so he takes it to SEMA, and they show it at SEMA, and he sends me a million pictures. They're super pumped with it, and then I think how long is it till the Grand National Roadster show after that? Couple weeks, maybe.
Month. I think it's December.
Yeah, so he got invited to the Grand National Roadster show with a mini truck, which is, if anybody knows anything about it, it's not a common thing. I've seen a couple there.
No.
They're more street rod style. Mike's is not street rod style. It's a mini truck. Like it was a mini truck, bead rolled inside the bed. Painted frame. Like it was a very, very nice truck. Suede interior. All that stuff. A little bit of candy paint on it, but it was not a street rod style truck. Still had stock motor in it, the 2.4 in it, and all that stuff. So he goes to Grand National Roadster Show, and he gets first place, which was crazy, like unbelievable to me, And he was just pumped on that truck, and he drove it. He'd send me pictures here and there. He was still working for Acura. He would send me pictures of him picking up parts. He was driving it every day, loading the bed down completely full of parts, and driving it every single day, and he ended up selling it, and then it got totaled after that. So
I remember that. Well, it wasn't long after he got rid of it. It was at a car show. It got totaled. It got rear-ended.
It was what's the one in Mississippi that's real big, or was real big?
Showfest.
Showfest. So got the guy and his buddy that had bought it from him were sitting in I believe sitting in a red light, and a drunk driver rear-ended them. It destroyed it. And man, the cool thing was that guy, Mike said, "Hey man, this guy wants to call you." And I'm like, Jesus, here it comes. Like he's going to be upset. The truck got destroyed. Like he got hurt in it. I think it broke his femur. I could be wrong. I'm sure he can correct this if I am wrong, but I believe it broke his leg. It buckled the back of the cab. Like it is destroyed. I've got pictures of it, but, man, that guy, he whoever had bought it, he actually thanked me and said, "Man, I think that truck saved my life. The frame held up as bad as that wreck was, and we really appreciate it. Like we didn't die that day, and we should have," which was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you get hit by a drunk driver. I think she was going 70, close to 70 miles an hour.
In a body mini truck.
Rear end you in a truck. It's a couple inches off the ground, sitting at a red light at a dead stop. I mean, they're lucky that they didn't die. Very, very lucky. So that makes you feel good, even though the truck's gone. And man, even talking about that, but the gold truck too. It's gone now too. I saw it burned up in a fire in a guy's shop. He lost the whole shop.
Devin bought it, and
yeah.
I talked to him a few months ago, and there were several vehicles lost in that fire, but it's one of those things that people still knew the truck. Even when Devin had it, they knew where the truck came from. They knew who built it. Devin's got another Toyota himself, so
yeah, that was a nice, reliable. That was an automatic. It was an extended cab truck, and we didn't do anything in the interior except for paint it. The owner had the interior done, but we did all the body work and everything. And that truck was worse than the one I got for Mike. It was in really, really bad shape when we got it. It had already been cut and everything, so it was a redo.
I think when I come up to shoot Mike's one of the time, I remember we went to the guy's house and you showed me it was sitting under a tarp in a dirt floor garage.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Like no concrete, nothing.
Yep. He had a bunch of motorcycles, and he still does. Yep. But yeah, that truck, it made it a long time. Like I don't know of anything that they had to do to it. It didn't seem to fall apart, which is always good, But
I think Devin changed wheels about all.
Yeah, he put 20s on it. See, the guy that I did it for had 18s on it, and I set it up for 20s. So they end up putting 20s on it. Maybe did little things here and there, maintenance stuff or whatever. But it's just cool to know that those trucks, like I said, are built in some little teeny garage, and they last that many years. Like people are they're still driving chump change around right now. It's got a reverse 4-link on it from FBI. A lot of people will not know what FBI is, but I ordered that out of the back of a magazine. Little teeny Heim joint 4-link, and put it on reversed, not having a clue what I was doing at the time, just trying to figure it out. And that truck actually rides really, really well. Definitely not as nice as some of the stuff that's out now, but it was built at a time where I just missed the manual valves. The first truck I ever bagged was manual valves, like 1996. And it was all like AIM kit with the little yellow plastic straw line and everything that blows out all the time. That truck, like that Toyota just missed that. That truck has been done for, it's had air ride and a 4-link on it since '02. So this is what, 12, 22, 22 years. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when Mike brought you the Frontiers, part of y'all's trade deal, did you know you was going to go ahead and build it?
Oh yeah. And as soon as he showed it to me, I was like, man, I have never seen one of those. I want to do one of those. And then when I got to looking at it, I was like, this is not going to be easy because it was a 2-wheel drive pre-runner truck, had a big motor in it, 3.6 maybe. I don't remember what size motor it was, but had a big V6 in it. My plan with that truck was I wanted to stock floor it. I wanted the truck to look stock, other than paint. I had always planned to paint it flat, and I wanted on 22s, just complete everything, heat, AC, like everything to work the way it had. Had overdrive, it had cruise control, it had everything, and I wanted to keep all that stuff. So that
there
was my
wasn't
plan
many
with
of
it.
those. There weren't many of those done at that time, was there?
The only one I knew of was Ron Perkins
Yeah.
is he from Oregon, right? Is that right? Oregon or Washington or?
And he
Yeah, he's
made
from
it a
up
standard
there.
cab.
Yeah, he was in Relax. He made it a standard cab. It was like silver and blue. He was in Relax the same as I was, but he had nobody made spindles for it. The spindles on that thing are, I mean, they're this big, like huge, big, weird spindles. Um, I had talked to Max Fish at the time about making spindles, and he was making drop spindles for it. There's no way you're going to lay it out without them and keep the camber right. But I ended up I had met Casey Harden from Kentucky years before that, and Casey had helped me a lot on. Oh yeah, he'd help. Yeah, he's definitely somebody you need to get on. But he's been doing it way
You're
longer
the
than
third
most of
person
us.
to tell me that this week.
Yeah, because
So
nobody
it
knows
sounds
who
like I need to
Casey
get up
is.
with them.
So quick disclaimer, Casey, we made Casey stickers that say Casey who, because nobody knew who Casey was, because he was the older guy that was older than us younger guys at the time. They didn't understand he's the first guy to everybody drop a truck on the East Coast, like way before we were doing it, way before that. So Casey definitely be a good one to get on. He's got a lot of perspective. Also a world-class lowrider dance champion too. So
He
world
teaches
champion.
welding or whatever now, don't he? Still?
Yeah, he's still working at it. He actually taught at Wyotech for a while. Did sheet metal hot rod fabrication at Wyotech, and he moved back to Kentucky, and that's when I met him. I met him through Lee, and then man, he just started coming down, helping me. Like he would drive. He was in Moorefield, which is 2.5 hours from here. He would ride his motorcycle down, help me all night long, do some things on Mike's truck that he had more expertise in than I did, and then he would drive back and go. He was teaching class there too, teaching school there, but he does the same thing now. Yeah, he's doing some sort of welding class now. Building a dancer right now, so pretty cool. He's getting back into it because he's much older than we are.
Well, we're not spring chickens anymore either.
We're not. So that makes him really, really old. I hope he listens to this one day. But I had got up with Casey. He helped me a lot, man. And at that time, I had met John Norris up in Maryland and Travis Shade. Ethan and Jason Hayes up in Morgantown, up out of Morgantown from here. Lots of guys that were decently close to me, and I was traveling a lot to these guys' shops and doing stuff. So Casey, I got with Casey, and I was like, man, I got this crazy idea. Why don't we build spindles for this Nissan? He's like, yeah, we can do that. So he had all the machining stuff at his school up there that he was at in Moorefield, and I had taken him a spindle, and I had told him, like, I need this center section made. Because these spindles weren't they were the ones that you bolt on the bearing, like your bearing cup and everything bolts on, like a new car is, like all new cars are. So it wasn't one that had the spindle shaft that we had to weld and all that. So I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. So he made me the center plate. He made me my brake pieces, machined all the brake pieces for me to attach them, and made me the upper and lower ball joint mounts, and just kind of handed them to me. And I tacked them to my Harbor Freight table that I had at the time and started building stuff out of 1/4-inch plate to hold all this in and set it up. And I had made them, it was weird, like I had made them out of paper. like cardboard. I'd made the spindle out of cardboard. I'd made control arms out of cardboard. There's just no way you're using stock control arms. They're terrible. And had got everything functioning how I wanted it to. And then just transferred it over to that and tacked it all together and put it on. I made the arms, and it worked. It was crazy. I was like, man, this is nuts. Like, it's actually going to work. I thought it would drive like crap. I'd never made a spindle, like people don't make spindles, I don't think, necessarily. So, but we did,
unless
man.
you're a big company like a Beltec or somebody that casts them in-house.
Well, you missed my Harbor Freight comment. That was literally a Harbor Freight table. That's what I built it on, with a piece of sheet metal on top. So people like that, we don't normally build spindles. I would have loved to buy them, but they just didn't make them. So we built the spindles, ended up getting it to where it had no camber change up and down because the fenders are real big on that, but real weird. Put 22s on it. At that time, I had a couple companies wanting to give me parts. I took them, obviously, and just built the truck, man, like a clean driver. And you shot it. What it run in? Blood, sweat, and gears. Is that what it was called? Street trucks.
Street trucks, yeah.
Yeah. And you shot it in West Virginia.
You're missing the whole story of how that truck got body dropped, though. Didn't you go to John's shop and do it overnight?
Yeah, I was getting there because I'm pretty bad. So, yeah, we went to John, me and Casey. Casey met me at my house on a Friday. And this is right at the time of my career change. I was in the process of getting into my new career. So we loaded that truck up. I had bagged the truck and built the spindles and bagged it and laid it completely out on the frame, and I Z'd it at my house in the garage. And then I had body dropped the bed, so it was already done. So John had a shop called Get Board Designs up in Maryland. John, I was like, man, I need some help. Like, I want to stock floor this truck. I just don't have I needed a lift more than anything. That truck was big compared to working on regular cab Toyota. It's extended cab, Nissan, was heavy. It's a mid-sized truck. It's a big truck. Had a big motor in it, and I needed some help, obviously. So he's like, man, bring it up on Friday evening, and you can take it back Sunday night. We'll be done. I was like, it's zero chance. So I did. Me and Casey loaded it up. We took it up there, and we stock floored that thing. We stock floored it under the cab. He built the mounts. We did it all on the lift. Ended up having to cut half the Z back out of it because it was hitting the ground. Transmission cross members, we had to narrow the rear end like 8 inches, I think, like a ton, but he had the stuff to do that, so it wasn't a big deal. Casey ended up sectioning the oil pan for me and tigging it back together, and then sectioning the pickup tube, which was pretty awesome to watch because I've never done that. And man, we did it, and we bed lined the bed. We actually had enough time to do the spray in bed liner. We loaded it back up, and we were out of there Sunday evening at like 5 o'clock and came home. Completely body drop truck. So it was crazy. That's the fun things that you get to do when you do this stuff. When you meet people and you become friends, and nobody expects anything out of anybody else. That's the things that I like about this type of stuff as far as building trucks and cars and all that. Man, it's just the camaraderie you have with people, man. They become family. I talk to John on a daily basis. Travis all the time. All those guys up in Maryland were awesome. We got into riding dirt bikes together. They would come down here and ride. We would go up there and ride, just do stuff outside of trucks,
John don't have the shop anymore, does he?
No, John lives in Florida now. He had a body shop for a while, and then he sold it and moved to Florida. So he's down in Florida, not really messing with cars right now, just doing a lot of other things, taking a break from it. But, like Ethan and Jason are local guys. I had picked on Ethan years ago, on drop and drag years and years ago. He was a young kid, probably 14, 13, I don't know, posting from, I didn't know at the time, but from junior high, trying to hop from club to club. And I'm a little vocal sometimes. I kind of ousted him and called him a little punk. It was trying to get in different clubs and told nobody to mess with him and all that. We joke about that now because Ethan would probably kill me. He's
Is he fighting now?
Yeah, he just fought. He's a professional MMA fighter and boxer now. So what's crazy is me and my sons and my buddy just went up and watched him fight Saturday. He just fought this past Saturday up in Morgantown. We went up there and watched him, man, and all those guys were there. Like we just go, and it's awesome. Like we have other I would have never met those guys without, building mini trucks, obviously. So
Yeah.
it's real cool to be involved with that.
Well, I remember you called me like, "Hey, I'm going up to John's. We're gonna, body drop this thing this weekend." I'm like, "How
Yeah,
y'all gonna do that?" And I remember you called me like Monday, be like, "Yeah, I'm back home. It's done."
done. Running and driving, man, it was done. And then I just had to do the body work and paint it. And then, like I said, you shot it for the blood, sweat, and years. And then I had my third kid, so I had to get rid of it. And I bought that Cadillac, and I still got that thing. So,
Because you needed
yeah,
something bigger.
needed something for more kids for sure.
So when you sold that truck, though, which I know you sold it to John, right?
No, I sold it to Ryan McCord, which is another buddy of ours up in
That's
Maryland. I
right.
sold it to him. He had the gold. He had the gold.
S10.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, the S10. Which you shot it too, right? Did you shoot it or somebody
Yeah.
shot it? It was in
Oh
a magazine.
no. Someone up that way shot it. Phil or somebody shot it.
Yeah, Phil shot it, I believe. So I ended up going up to John's. John built that truck, and I ended up going up to John's and doing finishing the body work on it for Ryan and getting it in primer. And we did it in a weekend. Like it was the same thing. Friday to Sunday, I had to be back. I left Friday after work, and it's like to go to John's and those guys' place up in middle of Maryland from here is man, it's like 6 hours, 6.5 hours. It's a heck of a drive up there, and you work for 24 hours, not sleep at all, and then drive back and go to work
Yeah.
Mondays.
That
But
was
yeah, I
fun.
sold it to
That's what
Ryan.
made this fun.
Yeah, yep. I'm not sure I can do that anymore. As old as I'm getting now, I gotta have my sleep. So I still don't sleep much, but I still get worn out pretty quick. But
Then I
yeah, I
guess
sold it to
John
Ryan,
got
and Ryan
it,
sold it to John.
and then he changed it.
Yeah, and John painted it red. He had started his company at the time, so he'd end up painting it red, doing gold wheels and gold stuff on it, just with his brand of his T-shirt company he had. And then I
I
think it got
still see it
sold
on a
after
regular
that.
basis. It shows.
Yeah, yep. It's still around, man. It's still driving, which is awesome. I love that truck. That's one of them that I missed right there. That's probably the only one that I actually missed. So, but like I said, then man, after that, I kind of took a dive out of truck. That might have been the last truck that I did up until this one that's sitting behind me now. But I kind of got out of the trucks and went on with life, as far as that went. Like I said, I had a change of career and that sucks up most of my time. And I just, I still built stuff, and I was building mainly for myself. I was just pretty burnt out at that time. I had done,
Yeah.
I don't remember, it was like 9 trucks in one year and probably 6 or 7 the next year, just for people at different, not complete full builds, but several of them were full builds, like Mike's and the white truck of mine. And then obviously Chump Change and the gold truck. That Ranger was a full build that I did. There was an S10 that was a full build. The pink truck was a full build. And then there was several other in between that were just getting repair jobs or, bagged and stuff like that. Man, I burn out pretty quick, like really quickly. So,
I guess with you working a full-time job and then trying to do these trucks on nights and weekends, I guess that's when it just become too much for you.
yeah, it was stressful for me, for my family. It was affected everything. So I just kind of took a step back and stopped building stuff for other people and just started doing my own stuff. I still built my own cars, worked on my own trucks, still enjoyed it. Stopped going to shows so much. It's just everything became expensive too. And this is the time frame where, I know it's not a big deal now, but at that time gas went up to 4 something a gallon. That was during your show, and I was hauling stuff with a 454 crew cab long bed dually.
Yeah.
Like hauling all these half put together trucks that I was building. We were just taking to shows and stuff. And man, I forgot, like, we built little Brandon's D50 with a 350 in it
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And it was almost doored, it was cut off rockers. Like, there was a lot of, I forget a lot of them, man. I really
Did
did.
it ever get finished?
It is. It's almost finished. He ended up selling it several years ago, and somebody, I think it's up north, has it now. They're driving it though. Yeah, it's on 22s. We ended up redoing that one too. After that, we 3/4 framed it and put it on 22s, built control arm sport and all that. Now somebody's trying to finish it now, but yeah, it's still driving around.
Nice.
There's just so many trucks and stuff that I forget about, that was involved. Like when I think back about that, it's just a blur. It was just so much stuff going on, and then just shows weekend after weekend after weekend. It sounds amazing when you're younger, but you start having other responsibilities. It gets pretty stressful. So, like I said, this isn't my job, so
Yeah.
it kind of
So what?
wears you out.
I guess after you kind of took a step away from shows for a little bit, I know I really didn't hear from you much. I'd randomly hear from you. I saw you at Daryl and Nikki's wedding, and then
Yeah.
Daryl show up there. You kind of like would pop in from here or there, make a celebrity appearance.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I'd
But
show up and look around. I mean, I'm still interested in it. I went to Minitruckin Nationals this past year. Just
yeah,
popped in and looked and came back home. That's a 5-hour drive. I drove 10 hours total just to stop in for, a couple hours, see guys and look around and then leave. So,
well, when did you start building your new vehicle, and what is your new vehicle?
yeah. Well, in between all that, I built a Model A, like a 28 Ford Model A. I
Oh
got it for real
yeah,
cheap. So I built that, and that's where we'll get into Mike again. But I built that thing strictly just to have fun with, and man, it was a blast. It's like driving a go-kart down the interstate. Like I said, I drive all my
forgot
stuff,
about that.
so 7.5-inch chop top section body, full frame. All I did was use the body, built a full frame, coil over suspension. It was like 2.5 inches off the ground, but I mean, it literally was like a go-kart driving down the interstate. There's videos of me flying by semi trucks that it's smaller than the wheels on them. It's crazy. It was a good one, but I have always loved Impalas, obviously. So while I had the Model A, I traded my truck. I traded the Toyota because it had just been setting for years, like setting and setting and setting. I wasn't doing anything with it. I had too many kids they couldn't put one in there to drive around, come back, get the other, and do that
Yeah.
4 times. So I was like, man, I need to get something else. The spec had a 64. So we made a deal, and I ended up trading him for a 64 Impala, and got rid of the truck after that many years, which was weird. And in between that, I had bought my 75 Cutlass back from the guy that I originally sold to when I went in the Navy. I had bought it back, started rebuilding it, and then I ended up trading it for hydraulics to a buddy of mine, Brandon Smith, from Smith Chassis up in Louisville. I traded him the car.
Yeah.
He still has it. I traded him the car and got all the hydraulic stuff I needed to do the hydraulics on the Impala, and tore it apart, painted it blue, built it, wrapped the frame, all that stuff. So built a lowrider, street lowrider, so me and the kids could enjoy it. And Mike wanted that Model A from the time I was building it, and he was still in California at the time. And he was running the shop. He was running Flow at the time out of a shop, and they built that black, I think it was a Ford maybe, truck with all the copper bumpers and copper
Yeah.
center caps and all that. Real nice truck. They had built that. They were doing air ride on 64, stuff like that. He wanted that car bad. So we ended up making a deal. I really didn't want to sell it, but I had told him the only way I would sell it is if I could get my dream car, which is a 59 Impala. So I ended up finding one. A guy up in Cleveland had one, and it was decently priced. Like, you can't buy them now. They're outrageous. Any Impalas are, but that one's 59 is almost impossible to get. So I made a deal with that guy. I told Mike, I said, you want the car? This is what it costs. And he was like, done. Can you take half now? And I said, I don't even need half. It's how much I trust Mike. All I need is this much wired to this guy or wired to me so I can go buy this car this weekend because it's going to sell. And he was like, done. Man, I had it in like 2 hours. I mean, a stack of cash, done. So I take that money up there and I buy a 59 Impala and we bring it back. And I'm not talking a running and driving car. I'm talking, need a floor pan repair, like not a great car, like everything else I buy. So we bring it back, and within a couple months, Mike paid me off, and he sent a guy from Relaxed that came and towed that car out. Saying, hold on a second, Jesus. Doors drive me crazy. Sorry. So he sends a guy to pick the car up. He takes the car out to California. It made several appearances on TV shows that Mike was on at the time with his shop. And
forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it showed up a couple times on a couple different shows. I didn't even know about it. Like he didn't tell me. I was just watching these goofy car shows we all watch, where they're nickel and diming and buying cars that really don't cost as much as they say they do on TV. But either way, the car was like in the background a couple times. And I think Mike ended up selling it to his business partner and a guy that owns a barbecue place in, I think, Texas right now. Maybe Mississippi has it right now. It's still driving around though. Cool car, but so that was how I ended up getting a '59 Impala. And I still
And
have it. I've had it,
I completely forgot about that car
the Model A.
because
Yeah, that was a fun one.
it's
Yeah.
out of your normal build. So I don't know why I forgot about it.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that one of the guys that tattoos me is like, "Hey man, look at this," and it was cheap, and I was like, "Man, I got enough money for it. I probably should just go buy it and try something different, like something different in mini trucks, something different in lowriders." And I did, man. It was good. It was fun. Same thing, building the frame, putting the motor in it, whatever. It's all the same, but it's just a different type of car, and it really aggravated people around here. There's a lot of old street rodders. They hated that car, and it was spanking their butts at these local cruise-ins. I mean, it was winning time after time, and they hated that car. It was loud, obnoxious. I built headers for it. I mean, it was just it smelled like gas. It was terrible, It was everything you imagined it would be. To be, a black painted rat rod essentially. But that car was, and mine and Mike's, obviously our friendship and his trust in the things that I build is what got me to my actual dream car, a '59. So and that's what I'm still working on today.
I know you've sent me several pictures of the build process, and you're like, man, I'm taking this further than I've taken anything else before, and taking your
Yeah.
time on it.
Yeah.
But you did hydraulics and everything on this one too, right?
Yeah, it's all hydraulic, it's all low rider, man. 13s. It's black, of course, because it's what I paint everything now for some reason. Um, black wheels. It's got 13s on it. It's full done stock interior, but it's LS swapped, Dakota digital gauges, full wrap frame, extended reinforced control arms. Same thing with the rear trailing arms. Got a wishbone on it. Or a Y bone,
Engraved
sorry.
pumps.
Yeah, it's got engraved. I've started now. The car's done. It's been done 2 years. I've been driving it, showing it. I took it up north to some lowrider shows and stuff. But there's always other things that I want to do. Like they're never. It's the one that I have tried to take my time and make perfect. I got it in 17, so seven
Has it
years
been that
now.
long?
Yeah, I got it in
Wow.
2017. Started working on it immediately. So I've had it 7 years. I've been working on it 7 years. But man, it is a car that if anybody knows anything about cars, that car's triple the price of any other Impala. Like everything, they don't make anything for them. You got to buy original stuff, and it's not that they're rare because there's a lot of them, but they're way more rare than 64s, the 65s, and 62s, and so
Yeah.
the prices reflect that. But I've been recently upgrading a lot of the accessories as far as door handles and the hydraulic pumps. Everything's all engraved in chrome now. And that stuff, it's not cheap, like these cars, they're big money cars. So that's my Lamborghini or Bugatti or all this stuff kids want. Like that's it. There's no other car that I could ever want like I wanted a '59 since I was a little kid. So
Now, what are you gonna do when this one's done? You gonna sell it and find your next dream
no,
car? Like, what's your plans
no,
with this one?
no, I'll drive it, man. I've been driving it. Just drive it and show it, man. Have fun with it. The lowrider scene is completely different. Obviously, it's different on the West and the East Coast. Um, the East Coast guys they're super laid back, man. We've been to several shows, and they don't even do shows anymore. They just do these picnics and barbecues. You get paid $5. It's all you can eat, all you can drink. You just hang out, man. There's no trophies, nothing. You know what I mean? So I met several guys from up in Hamilton, Ohio at this last one we went to from West Side Lowriders. Man, they've been awesome. I've been talking to those guys. I never knew them, obviously. And what's crazy is one of the guys, Chad Furman, that I met there. I didn't really get to talk to him that much because he was busy, but he'd reached out afterwards like, man, your car was amazing. Thank you for coming. Just super cool stuff like that. We talk on a regular basis. He's actually building a '59 now, but I didn't know that I think it was probably 1997, I went to a show in Hamilton, and he was telling me about this blazer that he has now. Man, I pulled a shoebox out because I'm a weirdo and I know where all that stuff is. So I jerk a shoebox full of, pictures out, and I take a picture of his blazer and send it back to him, and he sends me a picture of the same blazer in his garage. It was him in 1997. Like I had met him years
Wow.
ago and didn't know it. It's just crazy, still into the same things, still building lowriders. But my love for lowriders, it's always been lowriders, always. Um, I've always gone to lowrider shows. I've always liked them more than any other type of vehicle, and it used to drive me insane when people would be like, "Man, your truck's such a cool little lowrider," and it wasn't a lowrider, not to me. So I always hated that, man. Like local people around here, but I've always just really, really liked lowriders and hydraulics, just fascinated by them, I really, really like them. And then, you get into Impalas and all that, man. I literally probably spend 8 hours of my day looking at Impalas that I can't afford. So I got them, I've got two, well, there's four Impalas here right now. I own two of them. There's one getting worked on. And then my son, that 64 that I had, I sold. He bought it back. It's at my house too. So, there's plenty of them here. I love them. I don't know how to explain it.
Any of the kids get out in the garage and help you turn wrenches, or are they
No,
not into it?
Not into it, man. Not at all. So Jacob, my oldest, he thought he was going to be, and he went to body school, and I tried to talk him out of it. He went and worked in a body shop with a buddy of mine for a little over a year or so, and decided it wasn't for him. He's actually tattooing now, and he's killing it, man. He's doing a great job. I never knew he was artistic. Didn't know he could draw, but I'm telling you, he is killing it. He's doing a great, great job. So
is he tattooing you now, or do you have any room left?
He's doing my feet. So I have the tops of my feet left, and obviously hands, neck, face, and head, because I can't do that yet. And then I've got my butt cheeks left, but I got another guy, the guy that did my leg sleeves all the way up into my hips and connected to my torso. He's doing my butt cheeks hopefully soon before it gets too hot. So yeah, I'm about out of room. I let Jacob do my feet. I don't know if I'll ever let him do my neck and stuff once I retire, but we'll see. He's doing a great job.
He needs a big face tattoo now.
I don't know. Probably not the face. I'd like to do my head, but
you've always kept them tucked in. I guess the military and you keeps you tucked away. So
well, that and the current job, so you can't show them.
Yeah,
so not like that.
Well, out of all these vehicles you've built over the years, all the crazy mods and stuff you've done, is there a certain vehicle that has always been your favorite, or is the Impala take that role?
The Impala is it, man. That's it. As far as trucks go, and the one that I probably miss the most is that white Nissan. I love that Nissan.
Over chump change?
Oh yeah. I was done with that truck, man. Like that truck was cool, but it was a show truck. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't getting in. Like I drove that Nissan in the snow with 22s when I took my kids sleigh riding. Like I drove it every single day. It was my daily driver. Drove it every day. So it was reliable. I like it. Chump changes too, and it was cool to look at. But man, I went so far with that one. No. It's not something you get in and drive every single day. And then when you're out in it, you got to worry to death about somebody hitting you and totaling it, and you get $1,300 for it because it's a '96 Toyota, and you got $100,000 in it or whatever however many thousands of dollars I spent on it.
Now,
so yeah, man,
Spec didn't keep it long, did he?
He had it. I had it a couple of years, and he ended up selling it. It's changed hands several times after that. I'm not sure where it's at now. It's down in maybe South Carolina, North Carolina, somewhere like that.
No, Damien posted it, that Rev Heads or whatever, that dealership he works at, wherever Damien Davis is at. It's sitting in the showroom last I seen it.
That's good. I'm glad it's inside. It had some, people had told me it had some wear and tear on it, which you expect. It still looked good on the outside. I think the interior kind of got a little messed up, but I had heard that the current owners are trying to, had somebody helping them redo some of the stuff, so that's cool. I'd like to see it again. I haven't seen it since the day I sold it. I've never seen it since then. Yeah, man, chump change was originally body dropped in a one car. I don't even know if it's one car. You couldn't open the doors. It had my washer and dryer in it in Virginia. So Virginia Beach, you're not getting a small house costs you a ton of money. You know what I mean? So I had a very small house. I think it was 900 square foot, 2-bedroom house. Had a attached garage with a laundry in it, water heater, everything else in the world in it. And I remember body dropping that truck, going underneath it. It was on jack stands, and I would go under it on a creeper from side to side because you couldn't open the doors, and I couldn't really walk around one side of it. So that's how that truck was bagged and body dropped there.
Wow.
And then I went to a 2-car garage that you saw, which was a pretty decent size 2 cars, like 25 by 20 or something. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And then my next house was back to a oversized 1-car attached garage, but I could fit 2 cars in it. Just you couldn't walk through it once you did, you know.
Yeah.
So I finished the Model A there, had chump change there, got rid of it, built a 64 there. Ended up getting a 59 and getting rid of the Model A. So I had both Impalas there. And then I recently moved 2 years ago. I bought a farm, ton of property. I already had a building on it that they were housing their tractors in. And immediately when I saw it, I was like, oh, we got to have this just because of the buildings. But it's actually probably a 3-car attached, but it's only got 2 doors on it. So I've got 2 cars up there, which is my 59 and my son's 64. I got three Harleys up there right now, 2 that are customers and 1 that's mine. And there's tons of room to work. You know, I still work out of it, but I've also got a shop now. This building, I put concrete in, insulated it, drywalled it, and bought a lift, which was the greatest thing I've probably ever had in my entire life because I literally didn't have a back anymore from rolling around with concrete working on these things for that many years. A lift has saved my life. It's amazing. So first time I've ever had a lift, and I was 41 when I bought it. A couple of years
You
ago.
see, you got a farm now. Watch out, Mike Alexander's going to talk you into doing some chickens and stuff if you're not careful. So
yeah, my wife tries to talk me into donkeys and chickens and
I'll have Mike call her and tell her that she
really
has
appreciate
his permission to buy them.
We're on goats and all this other stuff all the time, so I try to fend that off. I don't have time to take care of things that are alive.
I'll make sure Mike gets that pushed for you so you can have your
I'd
farm.
appreciate that. Yeah, I would appreciate that. But yeah, man,
it's crazy though, the full circle, the way everything, like you said, Dylan, you know, me running into you and then shooting all that stuff year after year. Mike the same way, because I guess if we add it up, let's see, Chump Changer shot 3 times by me, the pink truck, the gold truck, the white truck. That was just 6 of yours that you had. Yeah, Mike's truck 7. So I don't think I've had.
You shot several
anybody
more
else
for me. They just never ran. You shot 2 more for me at other shows that just didn't get to run because.
Little Brandon's truck ran in Construction Zone.
Yeah, you shot Little Brandon's truck for Construction Zone. You shot my buddy Danny's gold or brown S10 that time with the tan deadline and everything.
That was right before everything shut down.
Everything shut down, man. And then, you know, the whole COVID thing happened and nothing came back. So, yeah, you've shot a lot for me, man. Probably close to 10.
And man, it's stories like that when I look back on the stuff I've done, the people I've been able to be involved with, like the almost setting your arm on fire. Like that stories that will always live, that unless you were there, you didn't know how that happened. So I live, you know, through the people I shoot for the most part. Cause I can't weld, I can't paint, I can't do none of that stuff. So I've always lived through the builders that I've been able to shoot for. You know, I do some of my own stuff, but it's on a whole different playing field than the stuff that like you did, or, you know, anything like that, or any of these big shops do.
Yeah. And at the time that I met you, you didn't have anything. You weren't building cars. Like you didn't have anything.
Nope.
Nothing at all.
That's
for years and years, like nothing. So
that's why my blue truck was called Decade.
Yep. Your blue truck came out. So like you hadn't had anything for many, many years. So
10 years.
But it's crazy. I still do. People just don't know. They think I disappeared.
Well, here's proof you're still around. So.
Oh yeah. Still, I mean, this guy got me building a truck again. So wasn't real excited, man. But it's been a good change of pace from hydraulics to get going air ride again. And I built control arm mounts for that, and redid the control arms, it was already done, redid the 4 link, and we, finally laid it out. So it was about 4 inches off the ground. Did flow tanks, all aluminum hard lines, front to back. So it'll be nice. Got an LS in it, 6.0 in it. So it'll be a nice little truck.
I remember you texted me that night. So I got another damn truck in here. Back to working on trucks again.
Man, it's been forever. It's all been cars, man. Like I said, there's 4 cars here right now, all in pilots. So that's what I try to stick with, man. I know how to do them and enjoy working on them. So I don't know. That might be the oldest truck I've ever worked on.
It's definitely good catching up with you, reliving some of these crazy stories from back in the day. So
yeah,
we say back in the day, but I guess that was, I don't know, what, 15 years ago? I guess that is still a long time ago.
It's a long time, man. Yeah, like my kids say, the late 1900s when I was doing stuff. So that makes you feel terrible. But yeah, man, it's
I still
good.
have my daughter trying to get me to build her something. I'm like, well, if you buy it, I'll make sure it's done. She goes, well, can't you buy it for me? I'm like, no, don't work like that.
It's tough to do.
Like I said, definitely good catching up with you. Glad you're on. People online will see. We had to do a wardrobe change at the beginning of this because we log in and both of us have the same damn shirt on. So I'll have to post that picture. But we couldn't look like twins. We both got the gray and the beard. We couldn't have both the same green shirt. So
yeah, man,
such a coincidence. Appreciate you having the time to do this. I know we've been trying to make it work, and luckily it worked.
Having me on. That was
best of luck
weird.
On that.
Weird to be asked to do it with some of the people you have on here. So,
well, you've created such a big name for yourself over the years, and you've worked the same circles I've worked for all this time. Yeah. So I think a lot of the stuff I've done wouldn't be possible without you being involved. I mean, look at the covers and stuff I've shot for you. Like that just pushed my career further and further. So
I appreciate that, man. You definitely helped me out. So that's why we stay in touch, right?
Yep. I appreciate you coming on, man.
All right, man. Thank you. See ya.